Okay, so this is another really quick, simple breakfast. As you've already seen from the pictures, I've soaked my buckwheat groats overnight, so I'm just going to drain those off while I get everything else ready. So I like to give them a little rinse just because they've been sitting in the water all night. So I'll just give them a little rinse, and then while I'm getting the rest of it done, they're just draining. So I originally got this recipe from the Blonde Vegan blog. I've slightly tweaked it, so this is my version. So the original one had dates. I'm going to go for raisins just because we've got raisins and they're a bit cheaper. So I'm going to stick in a handful. So the quantities today are for 2 people, for me and Darren. So a good little handful of raisins. They're just to add a little bit of sweetness, natural sweetness. Lid on, and this is just going to be a little bit noisy. Okay, you have to do the raisins first because they don't get broken down if you put them in, if you add everything in together. So then into the raisins goes banana, and we've had this without banana as well, so if you don't have banana it doesn't really matter, you can just still do the buckwheat without it. Then we go for a couple of teaspoons of raw cocoa powder, so a nice superfood, and it makes it taste nice and chocolatey. So 2 teaspoons of that, and then maca, which is a Peruvian root, another superfood. You could do it without this. Again, this is kind of optional. It doesn't really affect the flavour. It's just that maca is really good for balancing hormones. It gives it a slight creaminess. It's got quite a sweet smell to it. So there's going to be 4 teaspoons of maca. And then to make sure that all blends up, just a little bit of some sort of milk, whichever's your favourite. I've still got some hemp milk left from the porridge. So just put a little bit of that in to loosen. It could be almond milk. It could even just be water if you didn't have any type of milk available. It wouldn't really matter. Again, I have done it with water when I haven't had any. So we'll give that a little bit of a blast up. So it starts to become nice and chocolatey. And you could even just put more water in that and then turn it into a chocolate shake. If you needed to take it with you, you could just drink it and not even have the buckwheat. The original recipe also had some sesame paste in. You could use any type of nut butter like almond butter or peanut butter. But again, I'm just leaving it out because I think the less ingredients, the easier it is. Okay, so my buckwheat groats are growing in. Don't be confused by the name. It's not anything to do with grain. I don't know why it's called wheat. It's actually a seed from a plant similar to rhubarb. So it's like quinoa. It's not a grain at all. It is actually a seed. So obviously there's lots of nutrients in there. So they go in. I'm probably going to need just a little bit more of this as a little bit more of a loosener. And that will probably be the end. I'll just add a little bit of water because I don't think I've quite got enough fluid there. And then the lid goes back on. Whiz it up. Our magic bullet's a bit on the black leg, so I have to give it a bit of a shake. If you've got one of the new Nutri bullets, you probably won't need to do this. And that's literally it, because we're going to leave it still with a little bit of thickness to it. Okay, so I'm going to serve this today. You can serve it with whatever you've got, but I'm just going to have some blueberries. So there's my portion. It's really nice with some fruit on the top, so I'm going to have a handful of blueberries and then just a few nuts. I've got some walnuts and some cashews. So again, doesn't need to be too many, just a handful. But again, you can have it plain, or it's really nice with strawberries on. Hazelnuts, because they're my favourite. But this is what we've got today. So there's creamy buckwheat porridge.